Sudan's Prime Minister Abdalla Hamdok has announced his resignation amid widespread pro-democracy protests, and he says he's making way for another to lead the country out of his dangerous political situation.
During the past few days, I met with all the components of the transitional period, the political and military components, and the peace partners to explain and brief them, and to put the national and historical responsibility before them. The honorable people, and based on all what I have mentioned, I have decided to return your trust to you and announce to you my resignation from the position of Prime Minister to make way for another one of the sons of this generous country to complete the leadership of the dear homeland and pass through it during the remaining life of the transition towards the reviving civil democratic state.
Hamdok called for a roundtable discussion to produce a new agreement for Sudan's political transition. Just 6 weeks earlier, he returned to his post in a deal with military coup leaders. He promised to save a transition towards democracy. Hamdok's resignation throws Sudan's political future into even deeper uncertainty, 3 years after an uprising that overthrew the longtime leader Omar al-Bashir. Meanwhile, a doctors' committee says at least 3 people were killed on Sunday during a crackdown by security forces on protests. Demonstrators are denouncing the military takeover and the subsequent deal that reinstated Hamdok as prime minister. The protests have left at least 57 people dead since October. Nokuthula Shalababa has more.
Demonstrators in Sudan have demanded that the military play no role in government during a transition to free elections. In a show of defiance, hundreds took to the streets of the capital Khartoum and other major cities. Security forces confronted the protesters and blocked bridges linking the 3 cities of Khartoum, Khartoum Bari and Omdurman. Authorities in the country have cut off internet services to quell the protests. Protesters are demanding civil rule. They want soldiers to return to the barracks.
I believe that these people in the streets will not accept any initiative that is not from the resistance committee, because every person trusts the resistance committee as they have no interest other than the interest of the country.
The end of the year demonstrations come after Sudan's Sovereign Council reinstated powers of arrests, detentions and seizures to the intelligence service. The forces of freedom and change say a clear political vision is needed to move the country forward.
We arrived in a procession to the palace. We must have demands. Do we want a complete overthrow of the military establishment and its exit from the state and government? Or do we want to drop al-Burhan? If we do not agree on these matters, the processions will reach the palace with millions of demonstrations.
Demonstrators hope the new year will bring a political and economic breakthrough that will achieve the aspirations of the Sudanese citizens. Nokuthula Shabalala, CGTN.